Okay, the broadcast is live. I want to thank everyone who's joining us tonight, from our viewers, and also especially we have a very exciting um, panelist guest this evening. I'm super stoked to be here with all of you beautiful people. As I tell everybody, we're literally gonna just have a conversation, right? We started what's called this COVID-19 Uncovered series. And so this is I want to say part 9. And our intent was to do this to really flood our community. And when I say our community specifically, the Black community and other communities of color, with just a wealth of information and knowledge with respect to COVID, all things COVID. And then as we were beginning to move into this whole space of vaccination, we wanted to just make sure people had information from reliable and trusted sources. And so over these past, 9 series, we've had just a wealth of experts here locally and nationally, medical physician, biochemists, community activists, and the list goes on and on and on. So I will say to our audience tonight, you can always go back and view any of those past live streams. I think we're streaming this on our Facebook channel as well, NAACPGR Facebook channel, as well as the NAACPGR YouTube channel. So without further ado, tonight we have Dr. Denice Logan, Dr. Abna Verma, our brother Myric Harris, Angela Cunningham, I think Alexis Scott will be joining, Tamiko Bowden, and then Shayola Binta. And so I'm going to give you all an opportunity to just go around and tell us a little bit about yourself. And then tonight's topic with respect to COVID-19 Uncovered, we've talked about the science behind it. We've talked about, all things vaccine. We've talked about ingredients within the vaccine. We've talked about the ways that people are attacked by this virus, because I do see it as an attack. And the list goes on and on and on. So tonight, I wanted to really focus on some individuals who have personally been attacked by this virus, what their experiences have been, and also the after effects of this. But then more importantly, from a global perspective, talk about wellness, right? We wanted to bring into this space tonight the piece around holistic health and care, and what we all can do from a preventative perspective, and just to keep our health and wellness, always at the top of mind. Because here's the deal: I always tell people that COVID isn't the only issue that we're dealing with. We're dealing with a variety of other illnesses that are literally taking our people out every day, every second, every hour. So we want to talk about that and give some good nuggets that people can take away tonight with respect to that. So I'll start off with our sister Shayola.
Greetings. I wasn't expecting the first part. I said, let me go ahead and light my Palo Santo and take in the aroma. Give thanks for having me on the discussion today. Again, I am Shayola Binta. I wear many hats. I am a vegan chef. I am a certified Sacred Woman practitioner, Emerald Green holistic practitioner, a yoga practitioner, a doula. So my healing arsenal is that of the natural, or maybe even ancient way of doing things. We like to refer to a term as Sankofa. So, go back, get what works, infuse it with what will work and, continue on.
All right. And Shayola, where are you? Where are you tonight? Because you're not here locally.
I am not local. I am hailing from Richmond, Virginia, by way of Brooklyn, New York. I've been in Richmond for about 20 years now, and I have begun this holistic path started about 11 years ago, and it just progressed into really a movement of people who are looking to employ a more holistic approach, first for preventative maintenance, but we know if we do the preventative maintenance, we are less exposed to having to be hospitalized and things to that nature. So
okay. Well, thank you.
That's our perspective.
Good. Thank you for being here. Angela Cunningham.
Good evening, everyone. First, I want to thank you, Clee, for this invitation. I know all of us have been having conversations about COVID-19 and the way it's impacting our communities and our lives on a private level, one-on-one with our family and our friends, but this community forum and this space to have a public discussion is so valuable. And so thank you for inviting me and letting me be a part of it. I am a broadcast journalist. I'm a morning show reporter for WZZM 13 on your side. I've had the occasion to cover COVID-19 from the beginning, all aspects of it, how it has impacted people's lives, how it has impacted businesses, the vaccines, obviously. And then I had a very personal experience. At the end of November, I came down with COVID-19 and it put me down for the better part of 2 months. And so I am still dealing with some of those after effects. In fact, today is one of those days. I should probably have grabbed my inhaler before we started talking. So if I hop out of here for a second, that's what's going on. But yeah, COVID is real, and it is insidious and it's unpredictable. So yeah, those are the kind of things that I'm looking forward to sharing discussion with you guys about tonight.
Thank you, Angela. Dr. Abner.
I was enjoying you, Ms. Cunningham, so I didn't unmute. My name is Dr. Abha, and I've had the good fortune of appearing on Fox 17 in the morning as a medical liaison and offering my experience. I work at Cherry Health. I'm a proud primary care physician to almost 1,000 patients, some of whom are homeless, some of whom are uninsured, some of whom are insured, every demographic imaginable. These conversations surrounding health are on the daily. I take it very personally as somebody very privileged to always have had health care, wanting to make sure everybody I meet understands their right to health care, how absolutely imperative health is, especially now with coronavirus. We were operating at a time when we had to do a great deal of telehealth. So discussing health in a very distant fashion is not what we're used to. We're used to laying hands on our patients, touching them, and interacting with them in a very close way. And now that I'm vaccinated, I have the opportunity then to speak to a very careful population, hesitant population, scared population about the value of vaccine. And that's my current role. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Dr. Denice Logan. You are on mute. You're on mute. Yeah. You're still on mute.
Along the bottom panel, do you see a mute, unmute? Just hit it once. It's like a stripe at the bottom.
There you go.
Okay. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for your patience. Thank you, Clee Jackson, for inviting me to participate with a group in regards to this particular subject. I currently provide services for Western Michigan and also for Mid-Michigan, for the state of Michigan, for Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan and Blue Care Network. My training is that of an internal medicine specialist, and I love my work. But for those who are not familiar with me, because I do admit I am a dinosaur. I'm a little bit older than all of you. Therefore, the young
You're not that old
Carry
now.
Street now, yes, been there, done that, was pregnant, had the baby, and breastfed in one of those rooms there as I was collecting my milk, storing it for my baby. So, been there. Now, what I just really want to emphasize, even though I'm not clinically practicing, yes, I do still love to put my hands on patients, and sometimes I do as I'm advocating for some who call upon my assistance. You'll see behind me, that is a hospital. This is a curtain. So therefore, I'm actually in a hospital room with a patient right now. So
Oh,
this is
wow.
going to be an interesting conversation, but I do always stand behind. I'm known to get up on a soapbox for prevention, but now I'm also on a soapbox, and I know that this is not the position for the NAACP to take. They are neutral in regards to promoting or not promoting the vaccine, but I do promote that. And the reason why I promote that is so that not only will I be protected, but those people around me whom I love, also for those whom I don't love, they'll be protected too. So good evening to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Tamiko's back on board as well. So, Sister Tamiko, you want to make a brief introduction?
Just happy to be here and to just be a part of this conversation and to join in talking about holistic health and prevention. So just happy to be a part of this conversation.
Okay, so I see we have Miss Alexis Scott. I think she's joined as well. Alexis, can you hear us? And we don't see her picture, but as you guys are helping her get that together, we'll go to our brother Myric.
Yes, good evening, everybody. Thank you, President Jackson, for having me aboard. Thank you, Kareem, for inviting me. I'm Myric Harris, CEO and President of T.E.N Media TV. We are one of the only Black owned and operated television networks production companies in downtown Grand Rapids. So we have been trying to spread the word in regards to COVID-19 and vaccinations, especially after I myself had a horrible fight with COVID. I vowed to cease all of my normal, regular programming and focus on 2 months of just COVID conversations, similar to what we're doing now. I think it's so important that we realize how dangerous this is. I, for one, was 99% safe. I live downtown, so I would come in my building, which has a hotel in my building, but I wouldn't wear my mask. I felt like I was at home. So I would wear the mask, leave it in the car, walk in the building, not thinking that there's thousands of people per week coming through this hotel who come in from everywhere. So that 1% of the time I let my guard down is perhaps how I caught COVID. And now I understand wearing masks. I understand the vaccinations because I didn't think I was gonna make it. So it's an honor to be here just to share my story of pain, sacrifice, and my achievement of getting over COVID. And all praises be to God for being here today.
Thank you, brother. So with that, Angela, let's jump back to you and talk about a little bit about your experience. How was it? And what were what feelings were you having? And then are there some long-term side effects that you're dealing with?
Well, I got it. I started to feel unwell the day after Thanksgiving. And we didn't do anything. It was just my husband and my son here. I too was extremely cautious, wore the mask everywhere, practically drank the sanitizer. It's a joke, didn't really drink it, but that's how frequently I was using it washing the hands, extremely careful. I was put in situations, though, that some people around me weren't as careful. I don't know that that's how I got it, and that's why I say it's insidious, because you can think you're doing all the right things and you can still be exposed. And there's no real way to pinpoint how you were exposed. When I started to feel that something was wrong, I knew it wasn't the norm. It was similar to flu-like symptoms, the achiness and things like that, but it was just deep in my bones. It's undescribable. And then the fatigue that came with that COVID fatigue, it was extremely debilitating, and like it was death warmed over. It really was. I just knew that this was COVID, because we've all been sick before, but this was something different. And sure enough, I got tested, and that's what it was. I remember in those beginning days, I felt like I was drowning just to breathe. Like I felt like it was just a struggle to get air in. And I slept and slept and slept. And to answer your question, yes. Thankfully, praise God, I wasn't hospitalized. My physician was able to see me without me actually having to be hospitalized. It was a lot of medication. And the thing about it, she admitted that like they're just throwing everything at, there's no standard medical protocol, if you will, to treat COVID, because it reacts so differently with different people. And so it was a process. And so I still deal with some respiratory issues. You could probably hear it. Initially, when I returned back to work, I still was dealing with that extreme fatigue. And thankfully that has subsided greatly, but they did put me in that long hauler category. And I deal with hypertension. So the jury's out on how COVID will react, because we still don't know yet, do we?
Right.
Once you have COVID, what does that mean for you long term? What does that look like for you in 5 years? What does it look like for you in 10 years, especially if you have pre-existing conditions? So, I'm just thankful to be here, because so many of us aren't, right?
Yeah,
And
that's true.
yeah. So
were there any other things besides the medications or the meds that they were administering to you? Were there any other things that you incorporated into that that regimen to help you? Like certain foods or
So, my husband was advocating for the orange peels and those kinds of things. The holistic, no offense, I know it's not holistic, but the things that you hear about. I just started taking all of my vitamins routinely, because although I have them, I'll admit I don't take them all the time like I should, and so I just got really serious about it. And that's one thing that I think COVID has reminded me, is that we can all get lax with our healthcare, with our health and wellness, until we have a reminder that we're not invincible, and that life is fragile.
Yeah, yeah,
Can I
it
ask
is.
a question?
Sure.
Okay. Angela, you mentioned that your health background was positive for hypertension.
Mm-hmm.
If the questions that I inquire regarding are too personal, just say we won't go there. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Now, you do have hypertension, but you did not have any history of any breathing problems, asthma. Were you a smoker? Any of the above?
Never.
And the reason why I ask that question is because people who don't smoke, who are athletic, who don't have asthma, are also at increased risk, okay? And if you have any of those, your risk increases even more. So it's interesting too that the inflammation or the inflammatory response, because that's what happens with the COVID. Okay, it causes the inflammation and it can go all over your body, and you're exactly correct. We continue to learn more and more about it. It's usually referred to as a novice virus, and it is because we don't know everything about it yet. We hope to continue to learn more, but the book has not yet closed.
Indeed.
Yeah. So Myric, what I know we had ran into each other in the store, grocery store, and you had, shared with me that you had contracted or you had been attacked by this virus, and you were saying that you were having some significant complications. Can you talk to us or speak to us about that? Just your overall experience, what helped you get through it, you think? Did you do any additional things to outside of taking medications that help? Because I asked that question because I know some folks who actually had it. And one of the things that they said that really helped, they were quarantined. They did not go into the hospital, but they said one of the things that really, really helped was when they would get out late in the evening and walk, and try to do a little jog, if they had the energy. But they said that airflow, it seemed like it really, really, really helped them. So.
Well, President Jackson, I myself, like Angela, I got COVID the day before Thanksgiving. I think I got it that Monday, but I didn't really start. I had like a scratchy throat and like an allergy puffy face, but I didn't realize I was really sick until Thanksgiving Day. And I never had any respiratory problems. I was always holding my breath for 30, 40 seconds to make sure I didn't have COVID. I heard on TV to hold your breath and you can hold it, you may not have COVID. So I would hold it for like 30 seconds, like, man, I'm good, But what really struck me was when I started seeing people who had died and having conversations with them. And then I started talking to animals, and I swear to God, I was it sounds crazy, but just to show you how bad the fever was. I was trying to wash dishes and I felt bad, and something told me,
oh, okay,
why are you complaining about washing dishes when you're sick? When the slaves had COVID, they never complained. Now you can see how delusional and how delirious I was by the things that I'm telling you. My fever was so bad, it was so high, I would literally be afraid to go to sleep and afraid to wake up. I would pray to die, I would pray to live. And just the psychological aspect of it was so horrible for me. The pain was so bad, I did not want to see the next day. Then I was afraid to sleep because I knew in my sleep I was hurting so bad until it's almost like I was outside of my body and over myself hurt. And I could feel all the pain while I was asleep. And I would dream that I was getting stabbed or kicked or hit, And the only thing that helped me was when I did go to the doctor, they told me on this Thursday, which was like 3 weeks out, your symptoms should subside. And no matter how much I prayed, I almost lost my faith in God because I prayed and 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 I prayed, and I got worse and I got worse and I got worse and I got worse. And I was so weak, I would just text my friend Jason Austin. I would just text him, pray. I could never get to send if I would just text, pray, and he would just pray for me. He'd call me, just pray and pray and pray. And I remember saying, everybody's praying for me and I'm not getting better. So I went to this scripture prior, and it says, when you are sick and weak and low in your faith, call on the elders of your church, and by their faith you will be healed. And I stood fast on that scripture. I didn't see any change, and I got worse, and I got worse. The nightmares didn't stop. The pain didn't stop. And the only bit of hope I had to hold on to was that doctor told me, you will feel better. Your symptoms will subside. She said, the path that you're going down, you've seen this before. No respiratory symptoms, but a lot of fever, a lot of pain, a lot of body aches. You should be better on this day. And I waited for that day. And it's like, I lived for that Thursday. And that she said that I had nothing else to hold on to. Because I mean, when I tell you, I've been shot and I've been in a horrible car wreck. I would have taken both of those on the same day than to have COVID. It was just that bad. And, you know, even now, I think I suffer more now than when I had COVID. Because now I'm a different person now, right? So eating in restaurants, I have panic attacks. Being around people, I have panic attacks. I don't process things the same way I used to process things. So I'm always fighting myself. My brain keeps in safe mode. My brain works like, if I have a task to do that seems too unbearable, my brain says, oh, no, don't do that. That's too hard. That's too complicated. That's hot. Don't touch it, you know? So it keeps me not accomplishing my goals because everything seems this big to me instead of the real size that it is. So I'm always fighting myself every day to get up, to put clothes on, to do things, you know, and the fact that I work for myself makes it even harder because now I have no check and balances to get me up, to get me out of the door, you know, and just knowing that you're not the same person, I realize I'm not the same, but my family, other people don't realize it. So they treat me as my pre-COVID that was constantly doing, never stop, never sleep. It's to the point now where I think people expect me to be the same person that I was. And I'm fighting the fact that I know that I'm not, and I still want to be, you know. And it's tough. My first 3-4 weeks talking about COVID and what I've gone through, I would cry every conversation, you know, because it was just that bad. I don't know anything in life to me that could be worse than having COVID. And now living after having COVID, it's like I'm totally different. Thinking, remembering, processing, analyzing. If something seems too big, I just stop. My brain just shuts it. Not gonna do it. So that's another life within itself, trying to live with the effects of you knowing you want to do more, but something is like on the inside that's not allowing you to just connect the dots and do more. So
Right.
Yeah, it's every day's a struggle, brother.
So the mental anguish, the mental trauma is real. And I think even we have to lift this up, even folks who have not actually physically been attacked by COVID, but just indirectly because of the social isolation and all of those things, the fear that we're all seem to be at some level maybe walking in around with because we don't want to get it. I want to bring into the room Alexis, our sister Alexis Scott. I think Alexis, are you off mute? If you are, can you introduce yourself? And we want to just welcome you to the space tonight and thank you for being here.
Greetings. I'm here, but the volume is very low. Can you hear me?
We can hear you good. We can hear you well. Yeah.
I can barely hear you, and I have my volume turned all the way up.
How is that?
Are you able to hear me?
Now? We can hear you. We can hear you really well.
So you can hear me fine?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. So now I'll just talk. Anyway, so I'm Alexis Scott. I'm also I ascended with Sacred Woman as well. So I'm one of Queen Afua's. I'm in her leadership level leadership, so to speak. But anyway, as a Sacred Woman, I also went through the practitioner program and Emerald Green and several other of Queen's programs, in addition to about 25 years of holistic health. And in so many different ways. I'm a holistic health coach. I've been since 2006, a graduate from integrative nutrition from New York, and also a massage therapist since 1997, energy worker, healer. I work with crystals, energy, all of that. All of the things that probably doctors look at and think that it's not real. But it's something that is very real, because when you think of the word holistic, that word itself, holistic, brings everything into consideration. So it's not just about the food that you're consuming or the vitamins or the herbs that you're taking, but it's also about your consciousness, your spiritual sense of being, your mental sense of being, what's your environment like, what are you choosing, what's going on within your own being. That's a huge part in this, because there's been so much fear mongering among people. You know,
Yeah.
so much of the media, so many of the numbers. Well, which numbers are real? Which numbers are not? There's so much confusion around this whole situation that it breeds fear because it's unknown. Nobody knows who to believe or who to trust. So the
Right.
first thing that I would say is to trust yourself and your own intuition. So if you're living in a space of, you know, watching the news all the time, and, you know, there's people around you that have been getting sick or whatever, one of the keys would be to first emotionally and spiritually take yourself out of that situation and focus on something that will give you a sense of well-being from the inside.
Mm.
And so once you have that sense of well-being from the inside, you would begin to cultivate detoxification. You know, and if you're detoxing your body, when I say detoxification, I mean actually purifying the body, meaning only taking in fresh vegetables, fresh fruits, water. There's a lot that goes along with really caring for the body and the spirit and who's around you, because all of it has an effect. You could be eating wonderful organic food and, you know, being a vegan and all of that, and be out of balance in your relationships. And that can still take a toll on your body emotionally. You know, you're still taking a hit somewhere. You're still taking a hit. There's still some kind of dissension. So doubt, fear, anger, things that are embedded in your system that have been there for years. Things like this will bring that to the surface really quickly. So we have a different approach. When I say we, I say in the holistic community, we have a different approach to the situation that's happening. One of them is, like I said, it could be a sense of feeling doomed or fear. Fear is going to bring to you everything that you're thinking about. If you're thinking about a lot of fear and you're just engrossed in it, you're reading about it every day, what do you think is going to manifest in your outer world, in your environment?
Yeah,
So that's
and I want to
kind of how we look at it. That's our perspective on it.
Yeah. Thanks,
Shayola, I
Alexis.
know that you know.
Yeah,
that's the way we're. I could say that's the way we're raised with Queen, with Queen Afua, and Queen Afua has her own protocol that has healed hundreds of people. Matter of fact, we had a rally when this first started. We were trying to do a rally in Atlanta, you know, just to give people the protocol, and the protocol consisted of salt baths and detoxification and doing the herbs, you know, and drinking lemon and water and purifying the body, you know, along with whatever your religious or spiritual orientation is, along with that as well, because that's a huge part of it. Like, what's your belief?
Yeah.
You know, whether it's a religious belief or spiritual belief, if there's something that's greater than you, how can you help yourself heal from that perspective?
Right. No, that's good. And I think that's all important. I want to come back to that as well.
I wish I could hear the response, but I can't hear anything.
Oh, she's unable to hear. So Shayola, can you just explain to us and the viewers who are watching briefly, what is the Sacred Women group?
So the Sacred Woman group, the village, the global village, is that of women, and we have Man Heal Thyself, which would be for our king men who go through a rites of passage, which opens the gateways to healing, right? As Sister Alexis mentioned, when we think of holistic, we have to look at the entire system. And we also have to look at the fact that we all were born into third dimension. And third dimension is very low vibrational, is very egotistical, and it's colonized. So many of us are operating from a very colonized and desegregated function, right? So in our village, we learn how to as Alexis was explaining, mirror the physical and the spiritual bodies, right? In this world, we treat our mental state in a psychiatrist's office. We treat our physical state in a hospital or a doctor's office. And we treat our spiritual state or soul state in a church, right? So there are three different governing bodies striving for balance and attention within the universe that is you. So when Sister Angela was mentioning the respiratory, my mind automatically went to, I can see maybe a journey that COVID may have fizzled to the surface with anyone who has really come down with what we call a frequency, really, more so than a virus. So it's, how was I getting on prior to, because this space is always with a virus, is always with something, is always with something to instill fear so that everyone will run and do the things that we just know are unnatural to the body. So the more we immerse ourselves, as Alexis said, with the fear and just the calamity, the more we, as a man thinketh, we are what we think about all day long. So if your thoughts, if your environment, if what you're reading, if what you're watching, if what you're scrolling is all that of a low vibrational, third vibrational frequency, then that's what we're susceptible to. So what I'm saying is, if our immune system is not operating at an optimal rate, then we automatically make ourselves susceptible to disease. So we have our, physical body, but there's also our etheric body. There is literally a ring of energy around us. And the stronger we are fortified, the more challenging it would be for something to penetrate that. But if I'm laced in fear, if I'm laced in, just low vibration, I'm going to attract, more of that. So if anyone on the panel would like to do what we call a tune-up, I can show you how we use a holistic approach to gauge where your spiritual and your physical body is. But
Thank you, sister, for offering that, and I'm sure some of us would definitely take you up on that. I want to bring in both Dr. Logan and Dr. Abner, but Dr. Abba, can you speak to that in terms of, is there an intersection between, holistic care and then some of us refer to just modern medicine or however you refer to it? Is there some type of intersection? And also, can they complement each other? And I want Dr. Logan to speak to that as well.
Thank you so much. Absolutely. One thing that I've said over and over again when given the opportunity is this: no one here in America was told to stay at home. We were invited to go outside, go for walks, energize, maintain our physical, emotional, and mental well-being. I was doing lives on Facebook teaching people how to meditate, how to think positively. I started a culinary karma cooking channel on YouTube, teaching people how to cook Indian food, plant-based, vegetarian, in addition to being an allopathic medicine physician. When my diabetics and hypertensives would come into the office and or talk by phone, having gained weight, having let their sugars go crazy, having let their blood pressure go off, I asked them what their explanations were. And their one-word answer was the COVID. And COVID never asked people to stop minding their health. If anything, it was an opportunity to become that much more aware of our health. We know the risk factors include obesity, diabetes, hypertension. We see sleep apnea. We see all sorts of obesity-related illnesses that heightened one's risk. For COVID-19. And so the one thing that I kept on with every single one of my patients was this: please go for walks. Please go outside. Please deep breathe. Do not stop minding your health. This is not a time to eat fattening fried foods and or foods that are not healthful. So absolutely, sir, there is an absolute intersection between allopathic and holistic medicine, because medicine was founded in health, and health was always derived from natural instincts. I find it very troubling that when you go to the gas station, what greets you in the store is not fruits and vegetables usually, it's soda pop and salt. Likewise, fast food is not somehow salads and greens, it's burgers and fries. And so we in medicine are by no means in opposition with that which is natural and holistic. We have always believed in that. And so I would agree, meditation, deep breathing, walking, exercise, turning off the 24/7 news cycle. These are all things that were meant to help our mind, body, and our soul.
Yeah, that's good. Dr. Logan, I want to pull you in here as well. But you know, the reality is that there are many of us that, you know, I believe that takes a certain level of control. I also believe that it takes a certain level of, you know, quite honestly, resources, right? And so, you know, those of us who necessarily don't have that level of control, and also not necessarily, you know, our fear is, you know, off the chart, but, you know, we've experienced and have and continue to experience an immense level of trauma, whether it's indirect or direct. And sometimes that's just hard to manage and to deal with and to you know, think about. I'm just, instead of, you know, having me a beer or some liquor, I'm going to take a 30-minute walk, right? It's easier sometimes for some of us to say, hey, I want to quickly medicate myself because of all of these other things. And I know that's not an excuse, but that's a lot of what folks are dealing with as well. So I just want to be clear on that a lot of folks are dealing with those things.
Now that was very, very interesting, because when Corona came about, it actually took the covers off of other things that were really happening.
Yeah.
One is the health disparities. The difference in the care that people who look like you and I get, and I include myself, because I do understand that when I enter a room, just as when you enter a room, the first thing that's seen is color. People who deny that are actually experiencing what's called unconscious bias, because it's really there. And that's the first thing that's seen. But healthcare itself, for us, it should not be any different than anyone else who may not look like us, but the reality is it is. And so what I think we have to start to do is, and some of us can, some of us find it harder to do, but it goes back to perhaps bits and pieces of the holistic way. It also includes wellness, but what's most important about all of that is some lifestyle changes. Now you'll notice they are not temporary. And it's not that all of these things came upon us when COVID came about, because we already had it. We already had it before COVID came, and COVID said, oh yes, now I can take over. And that is essentially what COVID has done. It's interesting too that some of you haven't noted your taste. Can you still smell? You can't smell. Angela can't smell. Okay. That is seen with COVID. That's a COVID effect. I'm wondering if, one, and these are the kinds of things that you might want to talk to your doctor about. One, did they check your vitamin D level? Now, there are some very, very anecdotal types of things that's in the literature in regards to vitamin D. And I'm not saying to go out and take it, because if you don't have the deficiency, then it's not going to do anything. But certainly if you do, and as you know, people of color, hey, I am
Yeah.
not a snow bunny, and I am not going to go out and play in the snow in the winter to get some sun. So actually, my vitamin D level may actually be down. And I share with you, I have to take vitamin D every day because I was deficient. So again, I didn't have to wait for COVID. That was something that needed to be addressed before. Angela now has the respiratory problems. Guess what? I had them before COVID. Did I get COVID? No. I was fortunate not to, but I was careful, like T.E.N Media was, and wearing my mask. And I actually will share with you, and I don't know how many people are watching, but I actually refused to go to physical therapy. When my physical therapist told me that I'm not really sure why people are wearing all of these masks, because people are still getting COVID. And you know what that meant to me? That meant that, okay, she's wearing a mask in front of me only because her job requires it. And when she's not here, she's not wearing a mask. So guess what? I didn't go back. I refused to go back because I felt that she was putting my life in danger, even though I was wearing a mask, but definitely not 6 feet away from her, because she was treating me for physical therapy. So we have to start thinking about protecting ourselves, but also protecting others. And I really hate to say, the lifestyle changes have to be there. Whether COVID hits you or not, the lifestyle changes are important. They're not temporary.
Yeah.
Dr. Logan, I agree with you. Cleve, can I jump in here for a quick
Sure.
second? We've talked a lot about disparity, but I would submit that disparity in wellness and health isn't just inside of a doctor's office.
Exactly.
Disparity exists in the homes, whether it's a two-parent household, whether both parents are working. And that fear that we've talked about, and that stress also impacts a person's ability to enact wellness. And the reason I think that's relevant is because although this is all great advice, you have to meet people where they are. You have to reach them based on where they are.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being under an enormous amount of stress prior to COVID. My son has been virtual learning for an entire year. And I've always been very hands-on with his education. And I found myself doing it even more. My morning starts at 2 a.m. So my sleep was very, very minimal. I was basically running on fumes a lot, and I was internalizing his stress and anxiety as well as my own. And so I'm not using that as an excuse, but I'm saying I'm just using my example as my situation as one example, because everyone has a story. And so, like Brother Myric said, like, people are dealing with the emotional impact of COVID, and we're not talking about that as much as we are the physical impact of COVID, or even the business impact of COVID. But this pandemic, this virus has really taken a toll on a lot of people's psyches. And we know, as we think we are, I think one of you said that earlier. And so when you're trying to make choices that are the best for you, it starts here. And so we can't leave that piece out of the discussion.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think that's what Sister Shayola made when she talked about these low frequencies and high frequencies, and us being, I say, many of us, when you look at especially the Black community, brown communities, are at much a higher risk because, again, all of the, I would say, social traumas that we're dealing with as well. When you you're just trying to, you're struggling economically, you're struggling, your kids are struggling in this educational system that's really not on a lot of levels fighting for them, right? You're dealing with all of these issues around criminal justice and reform and what that all looks like, and being attacked and murdered on the streets and seeing other people that you don't know. And so that puts an immense amount of strain and stress on your body. So that brings, I believe, down your immunity, and so you're even more susceptible when you have something like COVID out. Somebody has asked me, and I think this can go to any of you. What do you think? Let me look at the question here. And I think they were asking this from a holistic perspective about cannabis. What are your views about cannabis and its medicinal use as it relates to COVID? And Alexis, I don't know if you can hear us, but if you can jump in on that one as well.
I heard you say, what do you think about? And then I couldn't hear the word about
what cannabis and its
cannabis. Like CBD?
Its medicinal use as it relates to COVID.
Well, I think that it's been around forever, whether we choose to acknowledge it or not, but it's been around for a very long time. It's in the highlight now because there's money to be made, of course, so capitalism and everything else comes into play. But overall, I think that there are so many different types of cannabinoids that are, it's kind of complicated to talk about for people to understand right off the bat, but there are so many different variations that are beneficial for the body in various ways. That's what I can tell you. I know it supports the immune system. There are other things that medicinal marijuana is helpful for. So, I think it's something that should be explored. And I didn't see a lot on that, to be honest with you. And I always read trade magazines and so forth, but I didn't see a lot on medical marijuana, and outside of just, puffing and smoking it and feeling calmer or more paranoid. But I hadn't seen a lot on the actual scientific, proof
the marijuana and the cannabis being two different things, right? But as it relates to cannabis, it should be something that is considered, because it, like you said, it's been here before people, and it's so amazing how humans manipulate everything to bend to their favor just so that they can live the life that they feel they should be living. And certain things are just not natural to our way of living, but we force it. We're going to make it work, right? But to answer the question, it should be considered, whether it's something that is a salve, whether it's something that is a tea, but it has that's why it was gifted to us. It has so many medicinal purposes, but here again, due to imperialism, capitalism, colonialism, it's hijacked and made demonized in one sector, but totally praised and profitable in another. So I agree that it is one of those, unfortunate situations where man has decided that, he will be God and do what he feels should be done with, our sacred herbs. And all of the herbs are sacred.
Yeah, I want to get to one of the questions in the comments as well. Is it says so, and I think this is to you two sisters as it relates to sacred woman, and the comment is, this is from this is a situation. So is the vaccine encouraged in this practice, in the belief system of sacred woman?
Well, to each his own.
Not at all.
It's
not at all, because number one, we're going outside of ourselves. We're going outside of ourselves to put something into our bodies that's man-made, when that's the very thing that we're taught to do, is to work with the elements. We've been given everything that we need. If at a time like this, when something comes about that's so prevalent, and we lose that faith and that knowledge, then what point would that make? That's pointless. It would be pointless to even go through the program and use all of these remedies, all of these techniques and so forth that have been around. This is ancient information here. It's not new. It's ancient information. And so, I mean, just think of this. When the plague happened, I don't know if anybody that sells these essential oils by Living, something Living. Anyway, they have an essential oil called Thieves. And those essential oils were the essential oils that were used. The reason it was named Thieves, because I asked, was that this is what thieves use, the combination of these essential oils, to use on themselves during the plague so that they could steal from people that didn't believe in it. Do you see how that is like backwards? They've used it in a negative way, but they're using essential oils. That's it. To turn around the plague, to protect themselves so that they steal from people. And so, when I mentioned that to bring about that we tend to panic and go outside of ourselves when something seems like you're being overwhelmed with it. But if you take the time to take care of yourself, not just, as I said before, not just with food, not just with, the salt baths and so forth, but how you're living, how you're thinking. Every thought creates a reaction in your body. Every single thought. It creates a reaction in your body some kind of way, good, bad, or indifferent.
Yeah, I know.
And yes, it wouldn't be about the vaccines. And to be honest with you, I think it's a personal choice. I really do. I think it's a personal choice. I don't think they should be mandatory. I think that it's a personal choice, for each person to figure out, how they want to handle it. The other piece about the vaccines that I'm going to just touch on very briefly, and that's that they haven't been around very long. And it just feels like a Russian roulette, but people will take the chance because it's been a year and they're really, they're tired of living in fear and indoors and so forth. And it's a very limited way of living, especially here in the States. We have so much freedom.
Yeah.
And I think people are just tired of it and wanting it out.
Yeah. No, it's good points.
There's a much bigger picture to that. So
Myric,
on that note, I'll just be quiet about that.
Okay, thank you, Sister Myric. I think you're on mute.
Yes, I was listening to Alexis speaking. I guess in my mind, so Dr. Abba and I, we discussed this on my show, and because we're in a torn household, my girlfriend, she feels like her and her family, well, there's not been enough time, not been enough signs. But a lot of things we do, we don't know the science and the practical time behind it. And what I base my theory on is, if you have been as sick as I was, and you felt like this was a scientific method to keep you safe from getting that sick again, I don't think it would be a shadow of a doubt that vaccine would be beneficial. Because as we drive in cars that take us down the road, such as Teslas, as we rely on Elon Musk to get us to Mars, we don't know how long it took those people to design that Mercedes, but because it's a Mercedes and a trusted name, like Pfizer have a trusted name, may not be on the vaccine, but let Mercedes come out with the new S550, and they say it does all these different things. We're going to buy that car, not knowing the practical time it took to design the software, the computer, the ingenuity of it. So I think we have to get out of ourselves. Like I tell my girlfriend, you have to get out of the conspiracy theories. If you trust God, say, okay, I'm taking this vaccination because it has been said that it's going to help me be better. And there are scientists who are paid around the clock, or machines to work on these different things all day long. When doctors are asleep and scientists are asleep, the machines are still working to develop, a vaccination to keep us safe. So I just hate to hear people say that they're not going to take it because there's not enough time, or they won't take it because it's not proven or whatever. Because I almost lost my life. If taking the vaccination means I'm going to live another day to see my 2-year-old daughter, I'm going to take it. You know.
Yeah, that's
And
a good point.
that's why we say we respect those decisions, because the same way, you know, you want to see everyone wears a mask, not personally speaking, and I'm speaking for myself, I don't desire to breathe in my bile. That's just poison going right back into the body. I don't desire to be in a space where I can't necessarily breathe. I don't have children earthside. So if I'm saying I've been on this planet for millions of years, this is not my first rodeo on Earth. We were all sent here to complete a mission, God's mission. And the faith comes from knowing I'm born from a higher source that has provided me with ether, air, fire, water, and earth. I am of those things. Everything that's within my DNA has been here for millions of years. I have everything that I need to heal myself. Even if I need help with getting that done, this world is so new. Like you said, well, we don't know how long it took for, you know, whatever to be constructed. So we're just going to trust it just because. What I'm saying is, if I should be called home sooner because I wasn't able to complete my mission, then that I don't have that fear. I don't have a fear of transitioning over, but I'm not going to live my life covered up all of these nuances that people, man, are making these things. Man is pushing us in a way to be as unnatural as possible.
Naturally
The more
possible.
we, here again, most of us, we go to work, we are on the television, we listen to the radio on the way to work, we listen to the radio home from work. Some of us live in food deserts. All the things that you're just getting a constant conditioning on how you should live your life. And some of us just don't choose to live that way if we're taking the preventative measures to be abundant, not putting ourselves in environments where we will be more susceptible, or blaming someone because they didn't have their mask.
Yeah, you know, I'm gonna get Dr. Alba in to make a comment on that. You know, this is my take. You know, to be fully transparent, I was one who had a lot of hesitancy around, you know, getting vaccinated and all of those things. And you know, I did a lot of research. I was in charge of leading a work stream that put together a vaccine resource guide. So I had to do a lot of research and really thought about it. I want to go to this real quick as I'm making my comment. Michael Turner says, how can a safe vaccine be made so quickly? ? Vaccine development typically takes many years. However, scientists had already begun research for coronavirus vaccines during previous outbreaks caused by basically SARS, related coronavirus, severe acute respiratory syndrome, and Middle East respiratory syndrome. That earlier research provided a head start for rapid development of vaccines to protect against infection with COVID-19. No steps were skipped in the development of this vaccine modification. So one of the things that I want to add to that is I really had to dig deep to say, is this something that I really want to move forward with, right, in terms of getting? And when here in Michigan, just over the last week and a half, when the numbers are skyrocketing, and then also I know that there are two variants and two other strands, the UK strand and the South African strand, that's here in Michigan, and are very deadly. And although I'm doing everything that I think I should be doing, you know, with not just wearing a mask, and I was doing these things prior to COVID, washing my hands, being mindful, the things that we should have been doing anyway. If you're not feeling well, don't go to work. You know, if you're not feeling well, try to work from home. You know, try to keep your environment as thorough as possible. When you come in your home, wash your hands before going in your refrigerator, and all of these things that are kind of common sense things, right? But I felt like I had no choice at a point, because even though I'm doing these things and others are not, because I cannot continue to live in this bubble and be totally isolated from friends and family members and all of these other things, and then to put my 97-year-old dad at risk. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about this next week, but I felt like I had to make a choice. And so I did. I made a choice to go ahead and get vaccinated, even though, you know, I've been, you know, practicing on some level of holistic care forever. You know, I was, you know, taking my vitamin D, turmeric, and B12, and vitamin C, you know, 1,000, 2,000 milligrams a day, and drinking, purified water and all of these things. But I just got to the point where I'm like, even though I'm doing all of these things, because I can't see where this is, I don't know where it is. And I said, I feel like I have to have some extra level of protection. And this is a deal. Now it actually ticked me off, because I felt again like we have a whole lot of folks out here who are not doing what they need to do. And the science has been real clear. It is said from the very beginning, if we all just do what we need to do, we wouldn't even be here, right? In terms of the simple things, wearing masks, washing hands, keeping our distance, you know, being mindful of our interactions, and, you know, even something as simple as as I feel like I'm talking now, my tone is loud, but I'm not yelling at you guys. I'm just a little excited. But even that, you know, in the secretions that come as a result of talking, right? And those sorts of things. So I just felt like I had to do it, because I cannot afford to get this virus. I don't want to I have an underlying condition. I do not want to have this virus anywhere in my body. And so, and then I also just realized that, you know, I want to get out and do things. And here's the reality of it. The unfortunate reality is that my movement will never be the same. It will never be the same in terms of me going into crowds and being up in people's spaces and all of that. I will never, on some level, that will never look like it did. You know, so that's just the reality of it. But I think, like Sister Shayola said, it's preference. And I also think we all have to learn how to respect preference, right? And I get it. And especially, you know, when people have been actually attacked, like Brother Myric and Angela has actually had this and is still dealing with it. That's a whole nother level of consciousness that, you know, because I have not had the virus, that, you know, I can empathize with it, but I just, you know, and I just, you know, I get it. And so, Dr.
So, you know, in response to Ms. Angela, I definitely wanted to make one very important point, and that is the emotional ramifications. I dole out antidepressants, 1 out of every 4 to 1 out of every 5 patients. We're trying to enroll people to see therapists because they're so alone, they're bereft. The isolation that's been required by this virus has left people lonely, empty, not being able to attend church physically, yet trying everything they can to maintain scripture, positivity and whatnot. So I'm very well aware of the emotional implications, and it's something that's one thing I tell my patients: you're very deserving of good health care. Please don't feel that you're not. Come and let me and my colleagues and willing people in healthcare take care of you. Something Myric and I talked about very deeply. The other thing I wanted to make sure we talked about is this: the vaccine in and of itself may be a way out of the isolation. as a physician, I had to wear a mask, breathe in and out of that mask. My friends in healthcare forsake their own lives in ICUs day in and day out, breathing in through that mask for the sake of humanity. We didn't have a choice. We had to go to work every day. Angela, you in the business of news had to report all of the negativity and the barrage and the heartache and the stories of loss every single day. I tell Mike Avery and Deanna Falzone whenever I'm on the show, thank you for showing up to work, because having to wear that weight every single day of those stories of loss, scurrying around for PPE, never knowing who's going to die tomorrow, if it's going to be a fellow nurse, doctor, housekeeper, somebody in your own building, or your loved one, or your friend's loved one, is a hardship. The emotional toll of this virus will be uncountable because we're only measuring in terms of bodies lost. And one thing I told Myric, if even 10% of survivors are afflicted with chronic COVID, that is millions too many. And so I am very well aware of both the plus side and the negative side of allopathic medicine. But I also know the hardship of you, Mr. Jackson, not being able to hug your father, me having a mother who's a widow 2 hours east of here, wanting her to get vaccinated so my 17-year-old doesn't give her the virus unwittingly as an asymptomatic carrier as teenagers go. The ramifications of this virus are immeasurable. The choices we make with regards to vaccine may seem very, very personal. But as a healthcare physician who wants to hug my patients again, I didn't have a choice. By getting vaccinated, I can open my doors more safely and not give the virus to my patients who depend on me every single day. And so when I have patients come to me and say, "Doctor, I trust you, talk to me, give me 20 minutes, what should I do?" The first thing I say to a patient, Black, brown, and other minority, is, what does your heart tell you to do? I am not here to tell you what to do. Let me meet you where you are at. Let us dialogue, because the basis of humanity is respect. And I have never, ever questioned that as a doctor. And Myric would attest to that. Any of my patients who have come to see me because I have never said, I know more than you do. I believe as physicians, we have the hands of God coursing through our veins. It is what allows us to do what we do with humility and humanity. So to Ms. Cunningham, I pray that you breathe better. And to Myric, I pray that you think better. To those who have lost loved ones, I pray that the depression doesn't feel so heavy all the time. But this is a dialogue and a conversation. And if we are to open up our homes, our churches, our temples, our country, and countries, it's a very serious dialogue.
I agree with that it definitely is a serious dialogue to be had. When we, of course, I wasn't here for the first 8 episodes just to be present for the scientific information that is being provided. Because for me, my mind will take me, well, who provided you with this information? Where did it come from? How did it come to be? Because from my end of research, this situation has been brewing for 1.5 years. So there are very many people and places in place to do the things that or to execute this debacle. So some people will say, oh, that's conspiracy theory. But just as much as one thing that being home has allowed me to do is to rebuild a relationship with myself, because when you heal yourself, you heal all of your relations. It has allowed me to be able to build a business, because I feel like what Mama is really saying, this plague, is get in the house, be quiet, so that you can focus on what I'm trying to show you for the world ahead, because you're not ready. And many of us, And I don't want to be, crass or brash and saying are just not going to make it because we're not willing to let go of the things that got us in the position that we were in the first place. We're just not ready. And many people are not going to want to give up the fried food, the macaroni and cheese, the rice, the pasta. They're just not. And we say, let's give thought to the mind. Well, the gut is the first mind. So if you've never had a colonic, if you've never had an enema, if you've never cleaned out your colon that's 5 feet long, ever, meat rots in the body. We're consuming another being's flesh and their blood. We don't know what kind of state of being they were in before they were brought to our plate. So we then ingest all of that energy. And then we may have the macaroni and cheese, mucus on top of mucus that clogs the arteries. It diminishes the immune system. So here again, we can say that we desire things to be better. Someone said, I believe it was Miss Angela, that it really starts in the home. Many of us don't like to cook. We love the convenience. Many of us are still using the microwave. There are little things. Many of us are drinking tap water. There are little things that can be done that can help. And I'm super passionate because I came from a space of just poor health and I was doing it to myself. I'm just grateful that, this divine energy allowed me to get myself together to be prepared for a time such as this, mentally, emotionally, and physically. Here again, I've done mental health counseling, been in all types of hospitals and psychiatric wards, and just to see even the information that's given to people, it's just like, this person is not going to get well because the what you're putting them on is just a continuation of more the same. We're looking at the symptoms. We're not looking at the root. If you cut it from the root, then you're less likely to have the symptoms. But here again, it's that change of lifestyle that many people are not going to, they're just not going to want to evolve from. And that is really meeting people where they are. Like, okay, well, I'm not willing to give up this sort of television watching. I'm not willing to fast from social media. I'm not willing to, drink 8 glasses of water a day. I'm not willing to take herbs that don't smell so great, but I know it's going to clean my body. I don't really want to give up the fried food. I don't really want to stop hanging out with those people. I don't really want to do the things that God said we must do in order to ascend. Most of us are looking for this afterlife to be so angelic. That time is
Shayola, I'm smiling because I want to say, can we at least have a holiday where we can have a piece of fried chicken?
Well, here's the thing though, even if you're doing that, that's not your norm, right?
So that's like one holiday.
Okay, wait a minute. Wait. Okay, now within the
little bit of
changes
entertainment
you
for the
make in
mouth.
your life, with your lifestyle changes, everything is now in moderation. Nothing is in excess. So if you choose to have one piece of fried chicken once a month, one piece once a month, then okay. And I will let a patient know they can do that once a month. But does it mean then that you have to have fried chicken every week? No, because there are other ways to cook the chicken so that it isn't fried. You can actually bake it. There's a Weight Watchers recipe for doing that so that you're not putting it in all the oil, getting all of that. All of that fat is much harder for us to digest. So there are some ways. Take a look, check the web, Weight Watchers, baked chicken. And it comes out like it's fried, folks. You can even use the, what's that new gadget, the air fryer or whatever that is. Oh, I actually tried that. I went out and bought chicken just so I could try it. Now, there is a glitch. If the chicken requires 15 minutes, then I turn the little light on so I can see it as it's browning on that side. And then you open the door, turn it over, and when it comes out, it is moist. And you'll think, maybe this is close. Now, it's not going to be like fried chicken, but remember, I said this is a lifestyle change. It's
Yeah.
not going to be KFC. It's not going to be Churches. It's not going to be Lee's. And it's not going to be Popeyes. But it's going to be yours. It's going to be healthier. And guess what? It's actually going to taste good.
Right. So
I would go a step
I'm gonna
further
get,
and even ask, why do you even feel like you need the flesh? What
Oh, I like
emotional
meat, girlfriend.
attachment
The
do you
flesh is the
have?
issue, not the way
I
it's
like
cooked.
You know,
meat.
but here's the thing, meat and flesh are not the same thing. You know, so when we say we like meat, we're talking about coconut, we're talking about fruit. Flesh is flesh. So we have to even be mindful of our words. We should not. If we read Genesis, we will see that flesh is not mentioned in terms of consuming. God did say that we can have the meat that bears fruit from the tree. So we just have to hear again. If I say, okay, well, this is my holiday to have maybe not fried chicken, but fried oysters. What's the reason? Why do I need fried food? What emotional void am I trying to fill? Right? Because it's all one. If we're eating a lot of pasta, that's saying that I don't feel worthy. So I'm looking to fill myself. If we're eating a lot of dairy, that's saying I need nurture. I'm looking for mama's boob. I'm looking for the milk. If we're eating a lot of crunchy, that's anxiety. I'm living in the future. You know, if we're eating a lot of starches, that could be depression. I'm living in memories of the past. So it's all relative. So I'm here again. I'm not saying don't have your chicken. I'm not even saying don't go to a local butcher. It's why do I need this? What feeling am I trying to fulfill in having this, whatever it is? And if you can live with your decision, now, are you now flushing it out, or is the chicken just chilling in the system, right? Because here again, most people think that you're cleaning your whole system. You're not. Your intestines is 5 feet long. Most people defecate from the bottom portion of their colon. They very seldom reach the middle and the upper. And that's where all the disease sits, and it backs up into the system. It comes out of your mouth, your pores, your eyes, your skin. So in our world, we look at it in a very different way. And these are the ways that we strive to shield ourselves from the disease. So if it means we can't have chicken, I'm just going to eat the oyster mushrooms. You know, if it means that we can't have mac and cheese, I'm just going to learn how to make it vegan.
Yeah.
You know, she said I'm hungry now.
I think that you've brought up another subject. And the subject that you've actually brought up is how we self-medicate. There are a lot of things that we do for ourselves to medicate ourselves, to make us feel better, or to make us feel sometimes good. And it can be a variety of things. But if you'll notice, usually with all of those things, we end up doing those in excess. We don't usually do them in moderation, because the more we take in, the better we feel, no matter what it is, be it alcohol, be it food, be it for those who are shopaholics, okay?
Sex,
be it smoking, everything, okay? So again, remember I mentioned that little simple thing about lifestyle changes? It is not a temporary situation. I always used to tell my patients, nobody, and this is with the food, nobody wants to die because of what they ate. D-I-E-T, diet. Okay? So you have to step back, and it will require a lot of behavioral changes. And those behavioral changes are important for your mental health, for your physical health, for what you put in your mouth, what you put out on the other end also.
Yeah. So thank you, Dr. Logan. We could have had this conversation before we leave, though. I want to go to Angela right now. And Angela, as you are responding or and please make your final comments. And then I want Shayola, if you can list some things that that may be helpful, some of the herbal remedies that folks should be taking as well. And maybe certain types of food. Like for me, I take turmeric. That's, I think, been very helpful for me for my immune system. And I do the D3. I do vitamin C, and I do B12. I do the liquid B12, and then the liquid turmeric, and then a couple of other things. Sometimes the peppermint spirits, for all of this other stuff. So, Angela.
Turmeric is good stuff for sure. I think all of this information is extremely valuable, talking about overall health and wellness. I want to make sure, though, that we don't take the focus off the actual virus. Obviously, as has been stated, our health, our baseline health, has huge implications on how we can fight the virus. But we also know that healthy people, athletes have died. Those that were doing all the right things, from what we could tell, have died from the virus. I don't want the conversation to make people feel convicted and excluded. I want to make sure that they understand that there is science behind the virus. There's science behind the vaccine. Educate yourself. Try to combat some of those attitudinal barriers that promote fear about taking the vaccine. I'm contending with that myself as someone who had COVID. So these are complex issues, and none of this exists within a vacuum. So I just want to make sure that, again, we put the focus on the virus. It is a virus, and we can't get away from that.
Yeah. Okay. Dr. Abba, closing remarks.
Well, number one, thank you so much for letting me be a part of this incredible platform. I really appreciate it. Please don't get your information, for those who are listening and watching, simply from the news, your friends, or what have you. If you have a loving doctor whom you trust, who's someone you can dialogue with, that's what we do. We want to talk to you. So please make that appointment, even if it's a telephone appointment. If you can't come into the office and you just want to wrap by phone, I've been doing that, as well as are so many of my colleagues. We want to talk with you. So don't forget, these conversations are precious and they're available to your health always.
Yeah, thank you. Brother Myric.
Thank you for President Jackson for inviting me on. I just want everybody to, while we focus on the virus and the vaccination, I don't want people to forget about the mental health aspect that this virus is causing. It's not only causing respiratory. We hear a lot about respiratory issues and loss of taste and smell. But I just want people to also know that, for one, I was a person who built many businesses, and now I have no desire to even get up and cook breakfast, So from having a 14-day fever, before that, being a workaholic, building dreams, building businesses, having everything going my way, to now, after having COVID, I have no desire to do a whole lot, from the energy standpoint and just the will to do it standpoint. So this thing is real. I think we need to, like I say, focus on everything tonight, but also understand that people are suffering mentally from this virus every single day. Not only from the virus, but like somebody said, just in the isolation that this virus has caused us.
Thank you, brother. Dr. Logan, any closing comments?
No, just a brief comment in regards to the virus and the vaccine. For the Moderna virus, it was actually the principal researcher and investigator and developer was an African-American female, 34 years old. So don't think that we are being asked to take something that none of us had our hands on, because they did. And then some of the participants for the clinical trials, those were also people who look like us. The head of the Nursing Association, who's an African-American female, was one of the participants in the clinical trial. So we are participating. Now, if we start to take a look at numbers, we know that nationally, we're only about, I think, 11% of the population. And what we saw with the participants was only 9% of people who look like us within the clinical trials. Now, again, our numbers were lower, but I would encourage those, one, to take the vaccine, and it is your choice. I'm not saying you have to, but not only think of yourself, but think of those people around you. You're actually also saving their lives too. So it's not really a selfish thing. And there are a lot of reservations. And I too, like you, went through this mental part of thinking, do I want to do this? Do I not want to do this? Why do I really want to do this? Is it going to be safe for me? And it took me a while to come to the conclusion that, okay, I need to protect me, but I also need to protect those people whom I come in contact with, whom I love, and whom I work with, whom I see on a daily basis. Yes, when you see me, I will be wearing a mask. I wear a mask. Hey, I have a mask that'll match almost every color that I wear. And I do it in twos. I do my regular filtered mask under, and then I put my stylish on top. There are ways to work with it if that's in your mind, but I encourage you to take the vaccine.
Okay, thank you. And before I get back to Shayola and Sister Alexis about some of the recommendations, I got a comment that I think is GABA and Varian root, lemon balm, all of those things are good for anxiety, whether it be herbs, oil, or oils. This just came out today. Apparently, Michigan has 8 of the 20 worst counties in the U.S. now. And just run through really quick. Eddie McDaniel says this vaccine has been so political. How do we get our leadership to embrace it regardless of political party? Michael Turner says, my cousin is fighting for her life in a Detroit hospital right now. So for some, this is real, capitals. So we have to remember that God gives knowledge to the makers of the vaccine for our safety. Michael Turner also says this has been a really good dialogue from all perspectives, which are valuable. Thanks to all of you for sharing. We are listening. And Eddie McDaniel says, I'm hungry now. Teresa Branson says, thanks, Clee Jackson, for this great series. And Brenda Brame says, true. And so I want to thank all of you for participating in this amazing dialogue. And again, the point of this is just to make sure our community has as much information that they need, regardless of what the decision is that they, whether they decide to get vaccinated or not. And so we just want to make sure they have information from reliable sources, science-based sources, research-based. If you would like a copy, also those of you who are watching, of the resource, COVID-19 resource guide that I helped put together and author, contact us at info@naacpgr.com. This is actually a Blue Cross resource guide, but I was asked to lead the work stream to put that together. And with that said, we plan to continue these, every Thursday until it's not necessary anymore. And so, Sister Shayola, any recommendations in terms of herbal remedies that you want to bless us with before we leave?
Give thanks. And again, I'm grateful for an opportunity to share and speak amongst you all. As Sister Alexis mentioned, Queen Afua has 9 protocols, which can be found on her website, queenafua.com. She also has a line of different herbal remedies. There are a few of them. I'm trying to get it with the camera. But this, so really quickly, if we realize that fruits detoxify and greens nourish, that will help us get into a routine of detoxifying the body, then nourishing, detoxifying, then nourishing, detoxifying, and nourishing. So I would suggest that there should be some sort of burdock root in your regimen. Burdock root helps to clean out the blood, or you can do Queen Afua's Master Herbal, which helps to not only clean the blood, but helps to break addictions. It helps to clear your mental space. Then we have the Green Life. Whether you get her Green Life or you had a combination of spirulina and chlorella, those greens from the sea, which we come from water. The earth is, mostly water. So the vegetables that come within the sea are very, very valuable to us. So here again, that will be either Queen Afua's Green Life, or just making sure that you implement some sort of chlorella, spirulina into your regimen. She has what we call Breath of Life. Breath of Life is peppermint and eucalyptus that completely opens up the respiratory. It helps to even open up the mind. It's very strong. These are those essential oils that we were talking about. Some of them you can ingest, some of them not so much, but you can inhale them and they work wonders for the body. Lavender is really good for those of us who may have anxiety. We need to calm. Deep breathing also is great. That helps us to calm. Fire breaths help us to restore balance and equilibrium. So if we're on a 10 and we need to calm down, fire breaths, which is just inhaling in and out through the nose. That's also another way of, if you need energy, fire breaths help. They say 1,000 fire breaths is like 10 cups of coffee as it relates to giving you energy. So we don't really have to do the caffeine. If you are doing caffeine, that does break down the immune system and it dehydrates the body. So the more caffeine you take in, if you're not ready to make that transition, you should be drinking at least 2 glasses of water to help neutralize that. Enemas are going to be super important. Aloe, whether you're taking the aloe in or if you're using it topically, remember that our skin is our largest organ. So even if we're covering our nose, that does not stop things from coming in and out of our pores because the rest of our body is exposed. There's so many herbs that can be taken, but you can. I strive to keep my story going with different things. There are some recipes, some things to look at on my my Instagram page, but really just.
What is your IG page?
Shayola Benta.
So if we can capture that.
What is it?
Say that again.
It's Shayola Benta.
Okay.
And then we also have an offspring, so to speak, of Queen Afua's Sacred Woman Village, which is Mermaids and Muffins. We're morphing into Emerald Scarabs. So I take women through a year-long healing journey, so that we can start to make those correspondences as it relates to self-care. Give thanks. Okay. So there are many things that can be done. My focus is not definitely on the virus because we are what we think about all day long. So the focus for me is on wellness. So let's say if your mom had breast cancer and you're like, well, I'm not going to get breast cancer. Your focus is not getting breast cancer, but you actually attract it because your focus was on not getting it. So the focus should be on being healthy, having a healthy relationship with your breast. So, you know, I definitely do not advocate for the vaccine. I see no relevance to really taking it. You know, whether it's opening up spaces or you keeping somebody else, like I just haven't read any scientific evidence that is not a part of the institution, right? Because whether you're being educated, we have to know that that's a part of an institution where information is given to said institution and then dispersed. So a lot of us are just regurgitating things that somebody else told us. We haven't actually done the research ourselves. And I feel that that's where spirit calls me in at. Like, no, you do the research to make sure you know what it is that you're speaking of and how you're speaking. And I've been blessed with just great jednas and great master teachers that will allow me to remain grounded, because I know people are not going to agree with my stance, but I must be very strong in it because it's bigger than the colonial virus. You know, it's so much bigger than us, but that's a different story for different days. But
well, we caught that, sister, the colonial virus. So I want to thank all of you for being here. I love the diversity of thoughts and opinions. We, as I said, we will continue to have these conversations. And if you have any additional questions or feedback, please feel free to contact us at info@naacpgr.com. I want to thank all of you, beautiful folks, for being here tonight. And we will continue this conversation and enjoy the rest of your evening.